Okay. This is the monthly meeting, Cypress Black Bayou Recreation Water Conservation District, dated August the 8th, 2023. Kevin, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to introduce our newest board member, Rodney Madden. And our new office administrator, Ms. Lisa Free. Would you do the roll call?
Jerry Fowler. Gary Wyche.
Here.
Kelly Long. Here. Rodney Madden.
Here. Okay, we just learned yesterday that the bank was requiring that we have a motion in the minute that we add some people to access our banking account. So I need a motion to do that.
I move to add necessary parties to our banking account information to meet the requirements of the financial institution.
Yes, sorry, first of all, you'll need to make a motion if you want to amend the agenda to add something. So the first make a motion to add to the agenda, you need to unanimously approve it, and if you unanimously approve, then you can go ahead.
I move to add to the agenda the issue of additional signatures as required by the financial institution for the accounts for the district.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any public comment?
Did she add somebody to the bank?
We
Did she add somebody, or she just added?
No, I'm asking to add it to the
were
agenda.
asking to add.
Oh, okay.
We can't hear back here. There's two doors open and there's a man here. Could y'all please speak up?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've made a motion to amend the agenda to add to the agenda to address the issue of the requirement to add signatories to the accounts for the district as required by the financial institution.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and now we need a motion to add Lisa Free and Polly Mayfield, and delete Robert Berry, Shelley Carroll, and Walt Victor.
All right, we're deleting Robert Berry.
Shelley Carroll, and Walt Victor.
Okay. All right,
Eliminate them from the board? Eliminate them from the board, is that what you're doing?
no, sir, the motion is to eliminate them as signatories on the accounts for the district. So those are former employees.
I can't hear you talking up there.
Okay, these are the former employees that we're asking that we have to have a motion to have them removed as signatories on our bank accounts so they can't sign checks anymore. And we're adding in our new employees that have been designated to have signatory authority. That's what this would be. So I would move that we delete Robert Berry, Shelley Carroll, and Walt Bigby from our banking accounts and as signatories on our account, and add then to our accounts Lisa Free and Polly Mayfield, who are now current employees that will be assigned duties which will require their ability to sign checks.
Effective what date?
I'm sorry?
Effective what date?
Today,
That needs to be in your motion, if that's what you're going to put.
I move that effective today, the prior signatories of Robert Berry, Shelley Carroll, and Walt Bigby be removed as signatories from our financial institutions, and that Lisa Free and Polly Mayfield be added as signatories.
a second?
Second.
Any more public comment?
I got one, Mr. Wyche.
Okay.
Do you have an official resignation of Walt Bigby from the board yet?
I have been informed by the city that.
Do you have an official
I do not
resignation?
have an official resignation.
I would advise against removing him from signing until you have an official resignation.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, we'll remove Walt Biggers. We'll keep Walt Biggers.
No, I'll leave my motion the way it is with all three.
That's second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, vote. Okay, just a reminder, if we will maintain order in this public meeting, if you want to make a comment, you just fill out complete a comment card, and we'll go from there. Need a motion to name all.
Read them in the. We need to back up and do the approval of letters from June 13th and June 29th. Okay, and then we'll need that amended agenda to add.
Okay, I need approval for the minutes of the regular board meeting of June the 13th, 2023.
I move to approve the regular board meeting minutes of June 13th of 2023.
Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I also need a motion to approve the special board meeting minutes of June 29th, 2023.
I move to approve the special board meeting minutes of June 29th of 2023.
Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We need a motion to with this election of office.
I do, and at this time I request, I would like to amend the agenda to add to the agenda the appointment of officers as a result of the vacancy that has been left by Walt Bigby, the former president. So I move to amend the agenda. I need to say, is anyone, okay?
Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion for the office.
Sure. I also move that Gary Wyche be named president, Kelly Long be named vice president, and Jerry Fowler be named secretary as board officers.
Second.
Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, non-action item, presentation of the 2022 audit by Mr. Travis Moore. That's me.
Okay, you should have three items there. You should have bound up audit report, you should have, and then two letters. If you will go to the very last page of the bound audit report, that is the page, it's actually page 31. It will state that there are no findings or question costs for your 22 audit.
Okay.
Okay? If you look on page 25, this is your budget schedule that's in the audit on page 25. And it's on what we call the cash basis. It records what you brought in and what you spent. And you see for the year, you had excess revenue over your expenses of just over $8,100. So it's pretty tight, as you well know. You're getting numbers periodically. And you ended the year with a cash fund balance right at $75,000. The good news versus last year is your ad valorem taxes have crept up some. about $50,000-$60,000. Your expenses remain almost identical to the prior year. If you look on page 14, this is for your income statement where we record your receivables and your payables. The budget schedule's on cash basis. This is on the accrual basis.
Mr. President, could I ask a question? Could he stand over there so he can face us and y'all at the same time?
He's addressing us.
Oh, well, I don't want to listen then. Okay.
All right, so on page 14, it shows that you had, you recorded all your receivables and payables. Your excess for the year was $28,918. All right, look on page 21. I want to point this out, and I know you're aware of it. But I just want to point this out on page 21. Your ad valorem tax, which funds, you know, the vast majority of your operations down here. Your last assessment year is 2024, which means you'll assess it in 24, June, whenever the assessor sends their information. You'll collect it in 25, you'll spend it in 25.
Okay.
But you need to act on that soon. It's not something you just snap your fingers and do. You know, you got to give it to the assessor, you got to give, you know, your legal and get all the paperwork done, so that's got to be re-voted on by the public. But you can assess the 24 year, which will be like next summer. And then you'll get the money towards the end of 24 or early 25 and spend it in 25. So, but you kind of need to get on that. The importance of that is when you look at your debt that you have, that you pay on page 23, that runs you about $350,000 a year in debt service. It runs through 27. So, you know, your millage and your debt payments don't exactly match up. They weren't, you know, they weren't meant to. But I'm just saying that getting that millage in front of the voters is critical. Because your debt's going to run all the way through 27. So I think what I tell you is pretty much most of the years is pretty tight. You know, depends on how bad the repairs and stuff are, and how much legal you have, and all your lawsuits and things like that. But overall, you're still at the end of the year with $75,000 in the bank. You've got another letter there that says agreed upon procedures. There's nothing of any significance in that letter. There are some minor exceptions, but there's no findings. They don't equate to findings, so you can just read that at your leisure. The legislative auditor requires these additional procedures in addition to your regular audit.
Okay.
So that's, and they just, we have to do those.
Okay.
It's kind of a one-size-fits-all. Everybody does this. The city of Bossier does that, the parish does that, and y'all have to do it. So, the third item is just a letter to the board that says we did a government auditing standard audit. If we had any difficulties with management, it would be in that letter, and there are none. Any unusual items that need to be brought to your attention would be in the letter, and there are none. So, if y'all call me after you take this back and read it, if you got any questions, just give me a call anytime, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one comment on the audit. Mrs. Hall, state your comment, please.
Well, actually, state your name first, please.
Yeah.
My name is Renee Hall, and I live on River Road here in Denton. And I wanted to, there was a man in Ed Cooper, very wonderful man that was here when the lake started. He reminded us that there was a mandate with the establishment of this lake that there should be a separate maintenance account. And this was part of the charter that there would remain $250,000 in there as an emergency fund. And so my comment is that maintenance fund still there? And when we paid our $40,000 for our lawsuit, we requested that that be put in the maintenance fund so it didn't go to waste. And I just noticed over on the spillway that there are small trees coming out of the spillway, which gives me great concern that should something happen, who's going to pay for the repair? The other thing is the tax millage. I wasn't aware about the 2027 payments that they've go to there, the $300,000 a year. So my question is, if the millage doesn't pass, who's going to pay the remaining, what is it, $900,000 that's going to be owed from the loan that was made? Because it's not looking real good for the millage with the way things have been going. It
Thank you for
doesn't
your
look good
comment.
for them to it doesn't look like it's going to pass the way it's going. Is it
Okay.
on? Is there a bank account?
Okay, new business, consideration of the engagement letter to retain Mark Ford, LLC to provide bookkeeping services for the district. This is, come up since we lost the office administrator. So, Mr. Ford has offered to help us with the books until Mrs. Frey can get fully trained and knowledgeable as to what's going on with the books.
So this would be a temporary, okay, so the issue is for us to send an engagement letter to retain or obtain one from Mark Ford to provide the bookkeeping services. This would be on an interim basis until Ms. Free can get up to speed. Okay, all right. Do you
I
need,
have a copy of the letter here.
oh, okay. Do you need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
A motion.
Mr. Wyche, do you know if this has a timestamp on it or if it's going to be an open-ended?
Don't talk to us. Thank you for opening.
Okay.
Mr. Lisa, how long do you think it's gonna take you to come up to speed? You need a month, 2 months?
Probably at least a month. Is Travis gone? Travis is gone. Okay. My only concern is whether or not we have any requirements for the legislative auditor to be due here in that time period. I don't think so. I think we're good in that respect. So do we want to set it for 30 days or do we want to have a safety zone of 60 days?
Let's just say 60 days.
Okay. Now I agree. Okay.
I'd say do 60 days. Do 60 days with an option out after, whatever the time frame. Lisa said she's comfortable.
Yeah. And one of the ladies that works with Mr. Ford is Camille. I don't remember her last name.
I don't either.
But she pops in if Lisa would have to leave out, sick or something, and she's come in and helped Ford, take care of payroll.
That is correct.
P-U-L-C-O-N-E.
P-U-L-C-O-N-E. Okay. Then I would move that we execute the engagement letter to retain Martin Ford CPA LLC to provide bookkeeping services for no less than 30 days and no more than 60 days without further approval of the board in order to maintain our accounts and payroll until such time as Ms. Free can become acclimated to the processes and as noted in the addendum handwritten on the letter today.
Second.
Any further comment? I've got a public comment card from Mr. Nathan Taylor.
Yep, I'll remove that. You've answered the questions in the conversation.
Okay, all right. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, the next item is the consideration of retaining MANCHAC Consulting Group in INC to provide professional engineering services for the district. Mr. Ben, give us your presentation.
President, board, appreciate the opportunity to come. Had a nice conversation with Ms. Long earlier. Been working with CBB for the last month plus, reviewing various issues and things that come up as it relates to the building within the floodplain here. So we presented our contract to you as we described it. It's a not to exceed contract, and it's billed based on the hours that we put in. We estimate somewhere around $2,500 a month, give or take, depending on how much activity is required by the folks that reside here. I mean, seawalls, and boat houses, and other things that applicants would be presented to the board. So I feel like we have a fairly good handle on the policies and procedures of the board and understand the nuances there. I talked to Ms. Long a little bit about some of our suggestions as to making some of the areas like repair work being a little less ambiguous, providing some more detail to the homeowners out here on what specifically would be defined as repair or not. And there's a couple components within the permit application where I think it indicates in there that residents are required to have written approval from their adjacent property owners. It's my understanding that that's been resolved, as well as some commentary in there about having Corps of Engineer approval. And I know that in certain circumstances that's required, but not in all circumstances. So, those are just some general things that we've seen that might help an applicant when they come before the commission with a particular project. But overall, it's pretty clear in those policies and procedures what you're looking for when leasees are wanting to do projects on the village property.
So, as a generality, just walk us through what a potential or a landowner would have if he wanted to build, say, a boathouse.
Sure.
Walk us through the process.
So, the first step would be to prepare an application, and on that application, the landowner has a specific list of requirements that they have to put together. Those are all very detailed on the application. They're also very detailed in the policies and procedures. Those two things match well. That includes having a design professional putting plans together. It includes having your property surveyed and show things like your feed line, your flowage easement, things of that nature, so that we can ensure that the structure is being, is in conformance with the policy and procedures. Once that comes in, there's a permit fee that's also put on there. We have an initial site visit. Once the application's all put together, we have all the information we need. We go out, meet with the applicant, look at the project, and ensure that everything that they've got on paper is in fact what can be done in reality. And then that comes before the commission for final approval. And then they go to work after that. We would expect that there would be probably an initial site inspection once they get out, drive a pile for a boathouse, that we ensure that that's being put in the proper spot, document that work, and then maybe have 1 or 2 subsequent inspections after that, and so midway through the project, and once the project's complete, just to document the work's done and close that application out, and move on to the next one.
Okay, so I'm not trying to narrow you down because it can vary as to the project, but the initial permit fee is $450, and then what would be a guesstimate, I guess is the best thing to say, as to what
So,
you predict a completion would be, and with a couple of inspections.
yeah, so currently your inspection fee is $100 per inspection. So if you had 3 of those, you've got $300 per inspection. And the fee's a little different for a boathouse or just general construction or seawall. There's kind of a menu there of what those permit fees are.
So who's gonna notify you during construction? I mean, how are you gonna know what time to go out and inspect?
It's a great question. We would coordinate that with the applicant to make sure that if we, depending on the scale of the project, if it's something we feel like we need to make sure we have an initial and intermediate and final closeout, we would put that in writing in a letter to the applicant and say, look, we need to know when these are. Please contact our office so that we can come out and do a formal inspection and provide an inspection report for what was performed out there and document that and put that in the file. And we would just work with the applicants on that, probably much like I would assume is being done currently.
Okay, so if if a potential applicant, he or she would call the office would immediately refer them to MANCHAC.
That's what's been happening, yes, sir. And I think that would be the best thing. It's either they can bring the application directly to us, but all of that gets formalized through the board, and we can work with the board and make sure that the files are all accurate, that everything that's required in the application is put together and deliver that. So you could direct your applicants to our office. They can email us their information. They've got our phone number, things like that. And we try to avail ourselves to folks when they, they're asking questions. I got a text Sunday night about a particular applicant's issue, so we try to be available.
I feel like it's our intent is to have y'all take over the process of permitting.
So, tell me, what's my benefit of having a third party instead of in-house?
So I think we bring a unique set of experience and skill to the board. We are certainly not the only option, but we do have engineers, we have surveyors, we have resident project representatives, we have a team of professionals here locally that are versed in that. So presumably, if the board wants to move in a different direction at some time in the future and handle all that in-house, that's certainly an option. We were asked, MANCHAC was asked to provide a proposal to provide that as a professional service to the board, and that's what we've done.
Correct me if I'm wrong, anything that there's no term to any contract. This could be operated as an interim basis or a temporary basis.
Correct.
While we're in the process of our transition.
Correct.
Okay. And this would be a service that you can immediately provide, so that if there's an applicant out there that wants to get started on the project, they have an avenue to move forward as opposed to the alternative.
Yes, ma'am. And our contract, just wanted to say that our contracts, it's very simple. That we have a clause in there, y'all can terminate for convenience. If you don't like the way things are going, then you move in a different direction. So, of course, that works both ways, but we've tried to understand that this is going to be a bit of a learning experience, and we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable moving forward and that the process is working.
Now I have a question, because you asked what's the benefit of a third party over in-house? What would our in-house option be?
I mean, I know
Yeah.
Robert in the past has done inspections and stuff, so I don't know if we have one. I just-
Right, and that was one of the, I mean, look, I'll just throw this out there. You're trained to do this, right? I mean, you're an engineer, you have surveyors on your staff, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so I'm not a surveyor, I'm not an engineer, and I wouldn't know the first thing to do with that. And I don't know if we have anyone on staff here. Okay, all right.
And I think what we bring is a certain level of care. You know, as a consulting firm, we have a standard of care. We've got to come in and handle these applicants' cases with care, lots of documentation, and things of that nature. That if you don't have somebody on staff that's engaged in that day in and day out, that's a difficult thing to maintain. And over the long haul, you're going to want to have all of that information should something happen in the future. Why did these things occur this way? Certainly, if they come before the board, our intent would be to package up each applicant, show you what's there, and provide a little description as to why we recommend moving forward, or if there's a variance that they're looking for, whether or not we believe that variance is commensurate with the policies and procedures, things of that nature, to provide guidance for some of these
Yeah,
things.
the other question I have, you mentioned when we talked yesterday, I believe, that you document everything in writing, you document your
Yes, ma'am.
file, for lack of a better term. Will the homeowner have access to all of that information?
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, so it's a transparent process so that everything you have, they
And a lot of what's happening now is we'll get phone calls and people are calling back and forth, and I make sure that I get their email and a way to contact them, and I will memorialize that conversation via email and forward that to the applicant so they know what's going on. And if they disagree with that conversation, they have a mechanism in which they can communicate that back.
Okay.
But to date, I've had 12 potential applicants come to us. And these are other things that Robert, Barry, and I had talked about previously. But so there's been 12 that have come in, but I've only received one application, formalized application with the check.
In what time period have you had 12 inquiries?
Since the end of June.
So in the last 45 days, you've had 12 inquiries in one application?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, that application is part of the 12.
correct. Okay. All right, so 12 total.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a quick question about this vote?
Let us finish with it, and then we'll open it up to you, okay? Because I still have.
Have you filled out a comment card?
No, I just didn't know this was on the agenda. I was just
Well,
curious about
you'll have to fill out a comment card, please.
I mean, your contract with us also for other services other than just permitting process of the bulk house and the pier, am I correct? It's for non-ready contracts.
We understand that your primary need is permitting. You may have other needs, and if you do, we're happy to support you in that. So if there's other technical, engineering, surveying, other things that you may want us to entertain for you, we would be able to avail ourselves for those things and work here locally to take a look at that. There are other components. You know, you've got your levee system that gets inspected, you have a sewer plant and some other things, but that's not our focus. But if those are things you want us to look at, we're
Prepared.
yeah, yes, sir.
Let me ask you about you talked about $2,500 now, right? In there, you stated in the contract, it states that any billing will be go against that retainer.
Correct.
It says we go through. So it says in the balance, is that going to be a cumulative balance, or is that a monthly balance? Or if I go 3 months and I don't require any service from you, then it's $7,500. So we start doing work, are you going to go against that $7,500, or is it by a month?
It goes against the $7,500.
So it's a cumulative.
Yes, sir. It's a retainer in the purest sense. It puts skin in the game and motivates us to make sure we're staying very responsive to the things that you got going.
How often do you provide an accounting for your billing and show us where we stand? So
We'll do that monthly.
monthly? Okay. Do you happen to know what day of the month you issue your accountings to your?
It's usually the 15th, thereabouts, the middle of the month.
Also in your contract, and the way I read this, is that there will be no work performed in which you will not engage in anything without approval from this board.
That's correct.
I mean, the board still retains that authority to stop or start.
Yeah, if my understanding is you want us engaged in the permitting process, and that's what we're doing, and maybe, you know, we feel like, okay, this month it's getting a little, we've got some pressure on the retainer, or there's a lot of things coming in, I will make sure to communicate that to you, so it's not a surprise to you when it hits you. But if I'm asked to do something outside of that role, I'm going to reach out to you to make sure that we get your blessing on that before we proceed in that direction.
Let's have to think about this. Could you, when the application is made, can you just scan and email that to us so that we know this is what's on deck right now, or this is what's in front of us and what's coming down the pipeline?
We absolutely need a direct point of contact. We will need somebody to report to and someone to be CC'd in on that activity, just so that there's transparency and all of that effort.
Let me ask you this question, this is just pure. So, why the retainer versus just a job by job?
Again, it could be job by job. It just seemed like, in the pure sense of a retainer, it's something there that's keeping us actively engaged in the day-to-day work that happens here. There's money and a balance to work from, much like you retain an attorney.
So what you're saying is that if I have a retainer with you and I call, you're jumping right then, I'm not getting put to the end of
Yes,
the line that's behind the other existing client?
That's correct.
Or told, sorry, our plate is full, we can't handle that right now?
I just want to clarify something that Kelly told me about, is that between conversations with you and her, you have identified some of the changes that need to occur
Yes.
in the application process,
Yeah.
and that we are going to presently
Yeah, and let
go
me,
forward with that.
yeah, let me clarify what that means. When I was speaking with Ben earlier this week, I asked him, do you see anything in this process that you find to be overly burdensome or unnecessary? His response to me was, yes, I see 2 to 3 issues, or 2 to 3 requirements that I don't think are necessary, and that we need to explore removing those requirements. One of them was having to get permission from the landowners on either side of your property when you're constructing something. We've already removed that from the procedure, but there are a couple of other ones that he and I talked about. In addition to that, I spoke with people at with the parish, because I want to make sure that what our process and procedures are in line with the parish's processes and procedures and the permitting statutes and the laws that govern this. And so, in the next few weeks, our plan is to meet with the parish administrator, the parish attorney, and sit down, possibly Ben, to go through to see what can be done to streamline this process, okay? It is not this board's position to make this difficult. We've got to work with the statutes that are governing us, and so but we want to try to make it as streamlined and easy to move forward with as possible. So that's what Ben and I talked about earlier this week, and I've talked to Mr. Madden briefly, and I spoke with Gary about it briefly as well.
Yeah, and these would just be things to provide a little more clarity to an applicant. We're not going to be able to have a one-size-fits-all for every need out there, but there are components of the policies and procedures that I know are agitating, shall I say, to the community. But those, for example, having a licensed professional form, you know, a professional set of documents, those things are part of the requirements. That's a procedure that we would be looking to ensure is upheld when the applicant brings that information to us. We have had some questions recently by some of the applicants, like who can we call to do these things? And I've provided a pretty long list of professionals that I know that are capable and have worked in this area. You know, so we're I think some help on that end. The harder part, as I'm hearing, is there's not a lot of contractors that can perform the work. And so getting folks in the queue to get that done, you know, there's only a handful of contractors. Not like there's going to be 15 projects going on at one time out on the lake, you know, just because there's not enough labor to have all that happen. So our job is to just get the log jam cleaned up, make sure that people understand what's required, help them through that process, get their applications complete, approved by the board, and then work with them on when that construction begins. So, you know, I don't want to make it seem simple, but the requirements that are established by your policies and procedures are not overly complex. There's pretty cut and dry, black and white set of standards that have to be followed. We're just making sure that all of those things are met before a permit is issued.
So, I mean, one goal that I was thinking about when I came on this was that to try to get as much consistency across the board as possible. You know, I know there's going to be some variations and changes for different things, and we have to look at that. But, I mean, I think we still need to do a good review, like we talked about, procedures, with your help and input from places. But get that as consistent as you can so that, and I feel like you have the ability to establish that consistency for us.
Yes, sir.
And be a solid good connection for us.
And there's only like 3 or 4 pages in your policies and procedures that actually speak to construction. So you're not talking about a lot of product. One thing that I would like to see done is a kind of an illustration of what these things are, where the fee line is, you know, and show these things visually. I'm a visual learner. And so I think if you could put a sketch, we would prepare just a simple diagram of what that looks like, so that a homeowner that wants to build something understands, you know, this is the flowage easement, this is the fee line. Those aren't always in the same spot, but this is where pool stage is, where you can build a boathouse, what those dimensions are. And I've already sketched that out on a I had to do it myself, like, okay, I'm reading through here and I'm putting this down on paper to understand how this works visually, just to help me learn it better. And I think stuff like that just helps the applicant understand what they can and can't do pretty plainly, but there's still going to be exceptions and things to policies and procedures that we have to work with the commission on.
Now, that drawing that you're talking about, is that similar to what I received on a case that you and I discussed last week?
That was just me taking a look at assessor data and kind of sketching out what they were proposing to do. I'm envisioning something kind of like this, but neater, more neat. You know, just a diagram that kind of spells out.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to bring that to my old eyes. I don't see it from there.
And don't laugh, this is really not intended for, this is just my own study, but, you know, the boathouse, 100-foot max, fee line, flare stage, flowage easement, what those elevations are, indicating where you can and not where you're not. Yeah. But this, in essence, boils down those 3 pages.
Right. Oh, sorry, yeah, okay. Okay, essentially though, this is a terminate at will contract, correct? Okay. Based on the terminate at will nature of the contract, I make a motion to retain MANCHAC Consulting Group to provide professional engineering services to the district on an interim basis and in consideration of the terminate at will nature of the contract to provide services to the landowners pending our review of the procedures and permitting process.
Second.
Public comment. I have a list here from Nathan Taylor. You're up.
All right, Nathan Taylor, 189 Mary Lane.
You'll be addressing us.
Okay, I'm looking at you.
Okay, but
Okay.
can you stand at the podium so that we can get a good recording?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Buggy.
Yes, sir.
And you'll have a time limit of 3 minutes, sir.
All right, yeah, 189 Mary Lane, Bossier Parish, resident, landowner, born in the United States. I'm an American, and I'm saying that I am against what we're talking about, item number 5, without vetting the situation completely. I don't know him. I don't know anything about the company. I don't know if there's any conflict of interest. I don't know if, any of these things have been looked at. I also thought there was a public bid law, that you had to put things like this out for bid. I mean, the world that I come from, you do. You don't just decide that you're going to bring somebody on board. Therefore, the conflict of interest is very important to me. And vetting whether or not anybody within his company may have a conflict of interest with anybody on the board, any past board members, any of that. So I'm concerned. Sure, I'm all for free enterprise. Great, he came to y'all, but why? Why just him? Why is there not any output of, hey, we're looking for some more? Why not a group of contractors similar to him that are approved? Okay? Equal opportunity. The guy that ran out of here like his pants were on fire, the auditor, what did he say? We're low on funds. Who's going to have to pay for it? Why are we going to pay somebody else a retainer fee rather than open it up, get some approved people for the situation we need, and let the people that live on this lake pick who they want to use, as long as they're approved by the board. That's it.
But hang on, he's not doing any building or anything.
I realize that. I
He's
understand
just
that.
starting, he's just starting.
So there's no, okay, I understand that. I'm not saying that he is. But if he has the approval ability, he can also play cat and mouse on some of this stuff that we've had been going on here for the last couple of years.
No, okay.
I know you don't know.
Well, no, I'll let you talk,
Yeah.
give me just a second, because I'm open for discussion. Let's back up first, do one thing, and I'm gonna ask you. Are we subject to public bid?
Public bid law,
Yes or no?
it does not apply to professional services, like engineering, things like that.
So equally, if I wanted to cut grass and out here or do something like that, and I came up, you're not required to vet anybody on that?
There's an exception for professional services.
What keeps you from hiring a family member or a good old boy cousin?
That's it.
Yes.
Okay.
Going into a different.
So, then, by adding this, are we still looking at an ethics issue? Why?
No, the ethics issue is with a first degree member of the family with an employee or person who would.
Right, I mean, what's the rush here?
Okay,
There's no rush.
okay, no, I'm gonna take up for Kelly.
What's the rush?
We start, the thing that me and Kelly just talked about in this is that if we don't engage someone to do this, we have no one to do this. So that means we're gonna put everything on hold. And I even talked to Kelly about that. I said, look, we just wanna put, because we have another board member coming, we've got one out sick tonight. So do we wanna put this on hold? And her response was thinking of the landowners, and I was like, I really don't wanna make them hold off for another 30 days until we
No,
find
that's
something.
ridiculous.
Okay,
We've already
that's-
waited.
Okay, that's what we are thinking
But you're fixing
about.
to introduce a whole new thing that's gonna,
If I don't bring someone on to look over it, nothing's gonna happen for 30 to 40 days.
I understand.
So that's my options right now. I'm telling you, is this my best option? I'm not exactly crazy about it. I'm not saying we are. But what we're trying to do is meet the landowners in the middle and get something to where a process can keep going.
Well, who contacted him to begin with? How did that come about? It
I
sounds like
think 3 minutes is up, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, old buddy.
Andy Monica.
It was United States, once. Not American anymore.
I'm American too. My name's Andy Bonnick, I live on West Lake Shore, in Benton, here on the lake. I have about 15 feet of property, lakefront property, so I'm not planning on building anything. I just want to try to make sure this is going in the right direction. I don't know Ben, never met him. And I know you're not on hands on the Bible right here, but who actually contacted you back in the middle of June?
Hey, Andy, Ben's not answering the question, you asked us.
Oh, I am.
Well, ask us.
Okay, so there's a rule, I can't talk about.
Right, he's.
I didn't know that rule, Gary, I didn't know that rule. Okay. Well, let me ask you this then, I'll ask you a question, you told me I could ask you a question. He's been working since the middle of June, he's gotten 12 calls, one application. Miss Long was she was new to that too, you didn't hear that before either.
No, I was told that earlier this week, what.
Oh, you acted like you were very surprised
Yeah,
about it.
my
Okay.
facial. Yeah. But my
Is he already
response
hired?
was concerning.
Has he already been hired?
Yeah.
He's working for free?
Yes.
Who said that?
I think.
Oh, I thought you weren't answering me. Okay. Now he's answered me, I don't know. Okay, so, he won't tell me who actually asked him to be here. I'm sure I know who it is, but nonetheless, this is a public funded operation, okay? The taxpayers, everyone in this building right here pays the taxes for, let's say, MANCHAC. Should be 3 bids. I would say let's table this, okay, until we can get 3 bids for this contract before we just decide that we're going to hand it over to bid here. Okay? He might be the best guy for the job, and I agree with you. We need someone here to actually do this.
Well, that's why.
But I'm not saying it should be him.
Okay, that's why Kelly, if you'll step back and look at her motion, said this is an interim position for us to move forward. She did not say this is going to be a part of
I agree. I heard that.
because we thought.
Second thing, the thing on top of that is, you'll still have to wait 30 days to actually get something from him to say that y'all approved it. Every 30 days, unless you're going to have a walking forum or something to say, or put someone in charge of actually giving him the blessing to actually go through an application, right? I mean, no matter what, it's going to be a 30-day wait on an application.
If you bring it, from my understanding, and I'm new to this, so I'm trying to wade in here like you are, I'm learning this like you. So, and I'll ask me, the way this, I understand this works is you bring the application and fill the application out. Then there's certain process that has to go forward, right? By us retaining you at this time, is that not speeding this process up? If we didn't have you, we really couldn't do nothing. So if it was 30 days now, it'd be another 30 days or so.
But you can't decide on anything without a quorum, without a public meeting.
I understand that.
Or you cannot have a behind closed door meetings like they've always had.
I'm saying, so if we table everything and we don't hire him tonight, then nobody's going to get anything done for at least 30 days. I mean, there's going to be no review process, nothing going on about it.
Well, wouldn't it be better to do it the right way? I understand he's going to be interim. I
Right, and
understand that.
that's what my shocking response to him to 11 and 45 days is concerning me. If there's been 11 and 45 days and it takes us 60 days to get something in place, we're going to be backing up over 45 people. That's 45 people out there that can't do anything because there's no process in place. And I don't think that's fair to a homeowner.
No, I agree with that.
And so that's what, again, It's
Well,
a Band-Aid.
I would like to say that is an interim situation, but I believe you still need to get 3 bids on deciding who this is gonna be.
But for
That's long
professional
term.
services, we do not have to have 3 bids.
Because why?
If it's professional services, it's an exception to the bid rule.
Business, why do you know that?
Thank you for your comment, Nancy. Joe Watt.
There, Joe Watt, Richard Hilton, had a White Value. I've gone through the permit process for seawall, and I've got a couple of questions. One is just in my situation, I'm glad we're expediting or working towards that, but I've had those surveys, I'm a professional surveyor, an architectural drawing by an architect, gone through the Corps of Engineer process, landowner process, and submitted everything, and now I'm sort of in limbo because of the transition. So I guess, part of my question by the end of the night is, where do I go from here to get the permit? And what's that process going to look like? And the other side is I don't fully understand MANCHAC on the umbrella services. In other words, are they a one-stop shop? Is the landowner going to be doing the surveying, the engineering drawing, A to Z, and the permit process through them? Or are they just part of that, or you still can use anybody you want and they're just the oversight?
My understanding.
They're going to be the other side.
There we
You're free to
go.
hire whoever you want to hire to do your surveying, your drawings, or anything like that. And that's what, in his responsibility, he said he was issuing a list of people to provide, to do that work, right, Ben? Is that what I understood?
Correct.
Yeah, so other than his company, that these are people.
We work on behalf of the board in reviewing the applications, but the applicant has they can go get whomever they would like to perform the professional engineering and things like that. That's not.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. You provided though also, I mean, you can provide it.
We cannot.
No, he will only.
That would be a conflict of interest.
Like a review process.
Okay.
He will not.
So if I turn everything in ready for a permit, what else does that require? Do I have to have a contractor walking up here with me to get the permit approved, or how does that work at this point?
That's the way that, I don't know, Ben, I think that's that's been implemented, in that the landowner and the contractor have to come sign the permit.
Oh, okay.
All right, Mr. Lott, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Can I go ahead, because I got to take your can I go ahead, I turned in the card, can I go ahead and go so I can leave?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Come on up.
Renee Hall, Barrett Road. I remember back when Easterly was the engineer and he would come to the meetings for people to present their plans to the board. And it was real simple, and he was paid on a as needed basis. And we didn't have to have a retainer for a professional. He's an engineer.
I know who Bruce Easterly is, I just wasn't aware that he was ever paid on a as-needed basis. I thought he was paid monthly, but I don't know the answer to that.
And you may be right, you may be right. I just know that whenever you would come to get your plans looked at, he would be here, he would approve them and say, yeah, that looks good. And there's another question, people have called about, usually you would have your executive director go look at it and then they would bring the plans. Is there, people were told there's no applications for the executive director position, that they can't turn in any applications, so why aren't we going back to the way it was with, he goes and checks on it and the engineer is here and we don't have a 2,500, and I couldn't hear back there. Are people paying for him to come out and look at it, or is the district paying?
The district will pay the $2,500 retainer. The people, somebody jump in if I'm saying this wrong, he'll pay the permit fee and the inspection fee.
And that will go
That was the
against
400?
the 2,500.
Right, we'll use that to apply towards, correct.
Apply that.
Okay, so the homeowners are, it's part of what you would do anyway. right?
Yes, it's,
Okay.
yes, none of that's changed.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. I'm just trying to understand, because this is all new, and I'm used to the old ways, and it was real peaceful and real easy, and
Thank you for your comment.
Has it been 3 minutes?
No, but I've heard enough, thank you. I mean, I'm sorry.
oh, anyway, I've lived on this lake, well, I can tell you how old I am, but I don't understand why we have to get a full firm when we're down home people and we can just get a,
But my understanding was that a quorum of people didn't like having an executive director that did it.
yeah, I think it had to be called park manager,
It's done.
actually. Yeah.
Fair enough, and I'm not, but a park manager and hiring park managers, not on the agenda, and it's really not something that we're prepared to talk about today. The purpose of this process is to eliminate the problems that were voiced with the way the procedures were set up before. So we're trying to fix that problem, okay, that a quorum of people had. So
The problem
this is our
been fixed.
response.
That problem has been fixed, but moving forward, I'm just saying, I like the way it was done, but when we had somebody that was looking at the project, and you knew what he said was what you were gonna get, so that's right.
I think you're, okay,
So that's what we're getting from Ben.
that's what,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is get you
It just
that.
concerns me the
different way.
2,500 that you have to have paid every month.
I understand.
But I appreciate you looking into that, thank you very much, and I'm glad you're here, Rodney.
If that's the sticking point,
We can go back on it.
I'm completely okay taking the 2,500 call.
We can do it on a.
Yeah, you can pay us by hour, and if you guys get a park manager. Sir?
No, no, we didn't say 2,500 an hour.
No. I'm just saying that you pay us for our time, there's no.
No retainer, he's talking about no retainer.
But I'm just talking about the overall cost to the landowner just to get a $500 permit and a $250 application fee.
Hold on, I want to be clear. I don't think the landowner's paying this man. The district pays this
What's it
man.
going to add to the cost, what he requires?
As of right now, nothing, correct?
I had to look at the permit fee, that's what's under review. I'm going to review until he's talking about review.
Hold on. You
But-
said the permit fee,
No, the permit fee, that way I'm saying with Gary, and tell me wrong here.
I know there's going to be a cost that's going to be sent over to the landowners to acquire a permit. There's no doubt he's doing this for free. And why is he, well, never mind, I'll get my chance to speak.
I'll wait.
This one,
I'm sorry.
I want to go to clear. There's a fee schedule in place. There's one for the district, there's one for pretty much here in the city, anywhere, where to apply for a permit or to apply for, depending on what it is, there's a set amount that's the same for everybody.
Correct.
Per permit, that's what is being paid, but you're correct, this is set, the district pays.
The professional services.
Correct.
Right?
The permit, unless y'all change the fee schedule, the fee schedule to the landowner
Is the same.
stays.
Okay. And so none of these people out here are going to be expected to pay MANCHAC. That is an expenditure that's being absorbed by the district, correct? That's not correct.
There's
Okay.
going to be additional cost.
Okay. Then
I think Ben explained it in that the permit, to get a building permit is $450. That's what the
Boat house permit's $500. Obviously, correct.
Okay, 450 or 500, okay. And then whatever your professional services is on top of that, that's what the landowner will pay. And that money will go toward MANCHAC, the state offsets the $2,500 to the landowner.
Mr. White, no, sir. The fee that is being paid to MANCHAC, that is the district cost. The permit fee that the district already has in place, that will stay the same. It's the same for every single person who applies for that specific type of permit, whatever, based on the permit. That is a fee that will continue, and has always been paid, and will continue to be paid by the landowner. The cost that is incurred by MANCHAC is paid to the district. That's not passed on or
And currently, the permit fee money would offset the cost of MANCHAC. That's my understanding of it.
And that's mine as well.
Correct.
I would confuse them.
And we have some understanding of the nature of the work that needs to be done. These aren't things, if I'm sending you a bill for many hours on one application, then I would advise you strongly to find somebody else to do it. So, y'all don't know me from Adam, most of you. I was born in Bossier City, at Bossier Med Center, back when it was Bossier Med Center. My dad was in Vietnam, was a navigator on B-52s. Raised my family here. I'm a graduate from Louisiana Tech. Was married at First Baptist Bossier. My kids go to Penn High School. My daughter's at ULL. This is my home. As often as I can, I'm in this lake. And so I care deeply. And that's why I'm here. Despite what may or may not be perceived, I think you've got a professional that really cares and wants to do a good job for the board. I've been doing this a long time. I like to think that part of my success is built on the character that I bring to a project. So for whatever that's worth, I think it's important that you know that my roots are here. This is home. And I'm honored to do this. So we're not the only option at all. And however much or little you need from us, we will be proud to provide that service. We have people locally, we hire local people, this is their home as well. It's not going to be me out here as basically a principal of an engineering firm that's doing this day out, charging that kind of rate. We have inspectors and other folks that work for us that will be able to provide a great standard of care and care deeply about what we do. We believe that when we engage with a client, you're asking us to be perfectionists, and that's what we strive to provide. So I think it's just important to mention that we're not, we understand that there's that ethical responsibility. I don't have any family connections to any previous or past board members, and we were called to come up here. This was not something that I pursued, but I was honored to get the call and felt like, okay, that this is the direction that they want to go, and they've asked our company to provide a proposal to do that. This is what it would look like, and that's what you have in front of you to debate and to determine whether or not that's in the best interest of the board. So I think it's just important for you and those here in the room to understand that.
Charlie Clement.
We don't live exactly on the lake, but we do have property on the lake. That's not mine, it's my family. And this year, in the next year, we need to repair existing dam. So we don't have a problem with paying permit fees. We just don't really feel like we need an engineer to look at what's already there. We're not changing nothing, we just want to bring it back up to where it's completely safe.
That is actually one of the things that we've talked about modifying and clarifying in this process, to make that a little more clear and easy, so, okay.
Replacement wouldn't be like a field.
Right.
Yeah, we're not gonna build, we're just gonna repair.
Replace the band boards and that kind of stuff.
We may change the whole deck out, but we're not gonna change the layout of it up. So there's no need of replacing one board when my father-in-law, and they built this probably back in the 80s. There's probably been some boards changed, but I don't think none has been changed. That's our issue, and do we need an engineer for that, or just get a permit?
that's part of what we want to go through to clarify. That's what we're in the process of trying to fix, to be able to better answer that question. So that if you are to replace some three boards, you don't need that.
Yeah, but do we need a permit to replace the pole?
There's a permit required for any work. I'm not sure of the amount. It would be or I don't think it would be like the cost, like to build new construction. So
Yeah,
there is
it's not
a
gonna be
permit.
new construction,
Right.
and I don't know, there may be a island or two that needs to be replaced, but it's been there probably 40 years, so we have to get somebody to do that.
All right.
But we're not gonna change up the layout of it, we just want to fix what's there.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Joe.
My point.
Rod Glass, permit question. What if neighbors opposed to boathouse permit? Neighbors, Glass.
Yeah, quick question. Rod Glass, live on Black, Parks Road. I heard somebody mention that maybe if you got your little guidelines refined a little bit, or maybe simplified or clarified, that maybe the process, I think I heard, for approval could be right with them. That would be nice, I guess. But then I heard something about, well, the neighbors shouldn't have anything to say. I'm not sure. That's what gives me concern. I know one case where there's a corner lot and he has 30 feet. And if he put a boathouse out here, that homeowner would be blocked with the lake. And I think that's a problem currently. But what you're saying is maybe that would just get thrown out. And that both property owners see would be blocked from their vision of the lake if a guy who had just a little corner sliver and there's nothing there now. But anyway, built that boathouse. So there, in that case, you needed an arbitrary, right? Arbitrary. Because the neighbors would be arguing, who wants that? So
We've been through this kind of before, and I think we want to allow, hadn't in the past, allowed somebody to build a boathouse that would block a neighbor out.
okay,
So it's,
as long as that,
some of these little bitty lots, you really can't put a boathouse there. So it just depends on the individual spot.
okay, and so as long as somebody's looking at that, and of course, the neighbors are aware that, oh gosh, this is being proposed, so they can come and talk to somebody like, I guess Bruce Easterly used to do that, kind of the arbiter. Hey, wait a minute, you can't do that, you're blocking this guy's view. Okay, end of
Like
story.
a notice requirement. You don't necessarily have to have the permission of the other homeowners on either side, but they need to be given notice of what's going on.
That's what I'm referring to. I hope that doesn't get thrown out.
Gotcha.
That's all.
Yes. Cool. Thanks.
Stipulated. It is, but I heard you saying something about.
David Paul.
David Hall, 42 Barron Road. I spoke to Ben last month, and y'all are beginning to address that issue. We were talking about a minor permit or a major permit, the difference between building the seawall and needing engineering plans for a new construction versus replacing boards or doing minor improvements on the dock. And that, you know, whether that needs a $450 fee or whether that needs a $100 visit inspection and re-inspection, those are considerations that I think we might want to roll out. And then you go into the whole issue of trying to address, do you need a permit to prevent maintenance or to prevent something? Do you need a permit to prevent erosion on your shoreline? So a lot of places around the lake, we all are dealing with the big wakeboard boats and what kind of erosion it does to your lake. What kind of process do you need an engineer? It used to be that, as Mr. Berry told me plenty of times, as long as you add dirt and don't put anything into the water, that you're doing what's required by your lease to prevent erosion. Your lease requires that. And so there's many cases, me in particular, when I dumped dirt on the shoreline, and I got a temporary restraining order put on me for trying to do the things that are required by my lease, which is prevent erosion. I just like that, you need to consider that in your revamping of the permit process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brian Clausen. Seawall permit.
Yes, sir. Patrick Brian Clausen, 1001 Judy Lane. I applied and started the application for my permit back in May. Mr. Terry was there May 5th. Mr. Easley came back May 8th. Mr. Easley sent Alex and Mr. Berry an email because I have a seawall. The neighbors to the north and south do not. Severe erosion. And there was talk of either I have to dig back 20 feet to meet where the new contour line is, or they let me build it as it is, or come back 2 feet. I have not been able to have access to that document. I haven't heard anything. I've called no fewer than 18 times, and can't get up with anybody that can give me an answer. Charlie's not here anymore. Most time it is when we call back. I might be one of the people we were talking about. I don't know. So I don't know where I stand, but I guess I'm asking for permission to replace my seawall. It's older than I am. It's aged out. I can show you the aerial view from the Bossier tax assessor where my lot sticks out furthest on my side of the lake. I'm not asking to go out any further. I'm not asking to come any further. I just want to replace the seawall that's quite frankly older than I am. Again, started this process in April, had documents for them in May, had the professional surveyed. Mr. Bear was quick to come out in May, and I appreciate that. Mr. Usually 2 days later. That was great. And that was it. And I had to talk fast.
Alex, I think that was something that they referred to y'all's office, I believe.
I have to look, I'm not, I mean,
You see the email?
yeah, I was about to say, if you have an email or something, I'm not sure exactly which.
And I talked to Mr. Bear and I called him. I couldn't see it before the board seen it.
Alex, if you don't mind, there's 2 of them I need to address.
Yeah.
Get up there.
I just don't know
Clear
which
stuff
one
up
it
for
is.
y'all.
Okay.
I have to take, maybe if you stick around for a minute afterwards, I can.
Yeah, we'll find out, and we'll put you on next month's agenda for sure.
And then that's another question. How do I get on the agenda? So.
You just did.
Okay, wonderful. I told that on the 13th of June as well, but I didn't make the special meeting. Here I am, so.
Okay.
And it may be an item that we can handle without going on the agenda, so we'll try to help you out as best we can.
Sure. And is my best correspondence through email to you guys direct, or do I go to, so I was calling Shelley in her office trying to get some kind of answers, but I don't know the right mechanism for talking to the right people, right? I know your emails are listed on things. I was trying not to go through you guys, but.
Okay, I have your phone. I'm here when I find out something, I'll give you a call.
And if you do choose to email everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Some of us will be able to get to it before others.
I'm sure.
Sorry, okay.
Derek Ford.
Thanks, Derek Ford. I appreciate y'all giving me a chance to talk, and we'll try to give you a different perspective instead of homeowners versus board versus engineering group. When I'm an actual one of the approved contractors for up here that does build boathouses and seawalls. You say there's not many of us, there's plenty of us. The difference is nobody wants to come up here and work because of red tape and the permitting process and everything else. I've even put posts on the Facebook and everything. If you got your permit in hand, give me a call, I'll come up there and do it for you. If nothing else, I'll drive your fines for you. I'll help you out. I heard that there was 27 jobs on the books up here wanting stuff done, but couldn't get anybody to do it. Actually, there's, to my knowledge, maybe another one, but I know that there's 2 of us that are approved builders on this lake in this room. You got 12 in the last month, you said? I've gotten probably 20 in the last month. They call all of us. My problem's been this whole time, Robert Berry's well aware of me. I've been building boathouses for 27 years. I mainly build on Cross Lake. Whenever I've come up here and I've done numerous jobs, I did 750 foot of seawall up here last year. Went through the Corps and everything. It took 6 months to get the permit. I've been trying to do 350 foot of seawall for a man who claimed, I don't know the whole story, Jim Gould, been trying to do a seawall for him for the last 3 or 4 months. Well, no longer than that. But anyway, regardless. It went to where we were You're a lawyer, you're an engineer. Okay, that's your profession. My profession is building boathouses and seawalls. I don't necessarily need somebody telling me, that'll work, that won't work. That's what I do. I've done it for 27 years. I've never replaced a seawall that I've built. That being said, why would every homeowner, if you can approve plans of a seawall design, whether they want bricks, whether they want wood, whether they want steel, whatever, approve those designs. Then say, you have to have a contractor build it like this. Actually, it makes it easy for us contractors to bid against one another because we're bidding apples to apples. Secondly, this drawing right here, and I'd be glad to go over it if anybody wants to see it, came from one of the, I'll just say it, came from Abrams Engineering, who was highly recommended for the last 3 to 5 years out there, whenever we had to go to professional drawings. We used to do it on a red sack and it flipped. Okay, we went to professional drawings. If I built a boathouse like on this picture right here, first off, it wouldn't pick a boat up. Second off, it wouldn't last 2 years. The engineers, no disrespect, you don't know boathouses. I know boathouses. He knows boathouses. I know seawalls. I'm not going to come out here. The state of Louisiana requires contractors, we're held to a standard too. We have to ensure our work for minimum of 1 year. Between me and a select homeowner, if I come out and do inferior work, how long am I going to be in business? Not very long. I've been in it for 27 years. It's not fair if I come and I build Joe a seawall 100 feet right here, and it's approved by engineer, the board, whoever, Mr. Berry, whoever it be, and the next door neighbor, hey, while you're here, can you build me one? Well, I'd love to, but it's going to take you 60 days to get a permit minimum. Plus, now I got to pay an engineering group to take my sketch of my seawall design that has worked for 20-something years and send it to somebody to have them draw it. And then it usually has 2 or 3, 4, 5 mistakes on it, like this does. And then, who's liable? If I build it like I know it needs to be built, who's liable? You want me to build a house like this? I will. No, I won't. That's why nobody wants to come up here. That's why why it's so few and far between, where you can't find a contractor. Word's out. The people that were coming from East Texas got shut down. They don't have a license. Everybody's trying to conform and get licenses and insurances and everything we've tried to do to make it happen for the homeowners. But yet, we got to go through an engineering company who's going to tell me how to do my job. And you're right. $450 permit fee. Now I just heard 3 inspections. All right, that's fine. $100 per inspection. I got an email just from one of my clients the other day, where somebody named Russenbach or something like that. I can't even remember his name.
That's me.
Who? You? Okay. Okay. Well, you know what email I'm talking about.
Hey.
Well, let's see one. 3 inspections. What are you going to look for when I start the job? Secondly, what are you going to look for in the middle of the job? And then what are you going to look for at the end of the job? That should be we want to inspect it, make sure your materials are correct. We want to look at it before you backfill it to make sure it's built properly. But unless you're going to stand out there with a lawn chair and a glass of lemonade, you don't know how far I put those pilings in the ground. You don't know how I connected the tie-light rod. You don't know anything about it. But I'm a contractor that builds these things. I know I'm not fixing to do it. Having a select few contractors, I understood. That's what y'all always had. Y'all had the select contractors because every two chucks and a truck and a skill saw can come out and deck and build anything they want out there. But whenever your name's on it and it's the only way you eat, I'm not fixing to come up here and build somebody something half what. And I just,
You're just about out of time.
And I have a question. You mentioned that a set of designs for seawalls. How many designs do you work from?
about 3,
3. So you have a standard 3 that you utilize.
pretty much. Mostly I do wood walls, to be honest,
Okay.
vertical wood walls.
And then you also do boathouses?
Correct.
Do you have a set, like a number of designs that you use for boathouses?
I wouldn't say it as a design. I would say it more as standards. We drive our pilings to refusal. We use this type of piling, we use this type of wood, we screw everything, we don't use nails. That's what I'm saying, is there should be a standard that's gone by. Everybody might want 3 boat slips or 4 boat slips. So I mean, you couldn't put a pattern and say you want type A, B, or C. Because not everybody doesn't want a cookie cutter boathouse. But on the same hand, the standards and the way that it's built should be. I've seen engineering stuff on here that's, you could drive an Abrams tank out on the deck, but then the roof would collapse with a bird landing. I mean, we know what we're doing when it comes to that. So I've always been able to work with Mr. Berry and anybody else. I've even had inspections. No, I know you did it right. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ford. Robert Perry.
Don't mind, President, I'd like a few minutes before I start on item 12, a couple of matters they had there. As far as Mr. Lott's concerned, he had Coal Engineering do the survey for his. His plans are correct. He has been approved. The only issue we had was with Jeff. Jeff has got his stuff corrected that he will be able to start Mr. Lott's project. So once Jeff and Mr. Lott are ready to do that, I guess since Ben's taken over, we'll just need to touch base with Ben, but all of his stuff is approved. It is ready to go. He has no problem. He does have 2 areas that will require quite a bit of backfill because he has lost quite a bit of property on his point. And again, it's from the wakeboards and stuff. His is approved. He is ready to go. So Ben, if you will get with us. And again, so everybody will understand, this is a process that we're not trying to leave anybody hanging. I have volunteered my time to help Ben or whoever else try to get anything that is pending up and going so that they can take off. Jeff is working on the project right now. I told him once he's ready to drive, we'll bring Ben over there, let him get used to it. They'll know what to do. But Jeff, you are approved to do that project. And Mr. Lott, you're approved on it. As far as Mr. Clausen's is a little bit different. He does have a letter of recommendation from Bruce Easterly, Beast Engineering, that his project can start. Now, let's touch on Mr. Clausen's project. His project, quote, it's nothing he did. It's probably years ago when it was done. He is on the big lake, Cypress Lake. His existing wall that he has goes out past the point of the 179.6 by about 12 or 13 feet. So it's further out than what it should have been. But Bruce looked at it. Bruce doesn't see any problem. What he does want him to do is come back 2 foot, and that's in this letter, come back 2 foot inside of that, build the new wall, and then remove the old wall once the new wall's built. That way there won't be any more erosion on Mr. Clausen. Mr. Clausen, according to Mr. Easterly's report, is ready. But because it's out of the normal permitting, because it's not following the 179.6, the board does have to give him that approval. Now, however y'all properly want to do that, if y'all want to try to handle it at this meeting, or you want to call another meeting or whatever, that's going to be up to y'all. But the letter does exist. Bruce did approve it. Mr. Clausen can correct me if I'm wrong. I think Philip was going to try to handle that project for him. So, yes, sir. So that one is good to go. It's just coming back in 2 feet, remove the old wall. Some of this, I think, Ben, we need to clear this up real quick. There is some of these permits that will be within the guidelines, which Ben will be able to, quote, approve those plans. They won't have to come before the board. If they're a normal boathouse or seawall that's following the proper lines, Ben can issue that. You're not waiting no 30, 45 days to come back before the board. He can handle that, which we'll sit down and go over that with him. But if it's something out of the normal, if it's a further length out, or if it's something like Mr. Clausen had, then yes, that will have to come before the board. You know, Ben can do his recommendation, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have the authority to prove it. It will have to come before y'all on that matter, on that part of it. I've heard about permittings. Yes, everybody's upset with permittings. It's just not this lake commission. I have a property in the town of Benton that was back in the tornado. I'm 4 weeks into it, $435 for a permit. The town of Benton doesn't issue permits anymore. It goes through code inspections plus. I still do not have a permit. Now they're wanting more information. It's unfortunate everybody's having to go through, but you have to go through the process. That's just part of what they're wanting and requiring now. Me personally, after taking permits and seeing what other permits cost, I think the permitting fee here is very reasonable. I don't see any issues with the permitting price. Like I said, we're trying to streamline it to where, you know, somebody that's professionally is handling that. It takes all the pressure off the board. When this man, like I say, if there's a dispute between the contractor and the engineering company can bring it to the board and the board can make a decision. So I think both of those things there, as far as the two that were brought up today, they're clear on Mr. Lott and Mr. Clausen. Another thing that Ben will be handling that was not mentioned in here, we get a ton. We might go 3 weeks and you might not get anything, and you go 2 weeks and you've got 15 or 20 requests from the MPC to go out and verify a swimming pool, an addition, or a new home construction. Because the permitting, the way the permitting ordinance was set in, and Rodney, you're new to this, the Lake Commission has to verify anything within 800 feet of pools, of what we call spillway elevation, which is pool stage. So any new construction, swimming pools, additions, MPC, once they get it, they're going to send it to us. I will say, we've been blamed before for holding something up, and it never even got to us. So there is a little hang up between Code Inspections Plus and MPC on getting stuff back. But like I say, as far as when it gets to us, we try to get to it as fast as we can. But again, Ben will be handling that. So it's not just boathouses and seawalls. He will be having going out and verifying the stuff for MPC because that is required of this board. So he will be doing that. But again, there's normal stuff that he will be able to handle. If it's not in the flowage easement, it's not in the NP line, all he's got to do is check the box and go with it. Now, we've got one right now that has been sent to us. I think Philip might know some about this. There's one that a guy's trying to bring 6 lots into 3 lots, but the road that was going to them is not a subdivision road or something, I believe, Philip, is that correct? So, you know, from our standpoint, there's not an issue as far as us, but yet it will be probably held up until they work that out with the parish on that, or the police jury or whoever. So that's part of it's got to be taken care of on that end. But like I say, it's been a blessing to be up here and serve. Unfortunately, I've seen it from what used to be a disaster to what everybody's tried to make it a nice place. And this is my 3 minutes, Mr. Wyche. After Katrina, there was certain stuff that was put in place, not just only for this Lake Commission, but for the cities, the parish, anything. There's new requirements that have to be met. Flowage, you know, that's a big deal. Flood stage, getting your, you know, slab height to a certain degree and stuff like that. It's no different than the stuff that the Lake Commission has to do. I will say that both of these lakes are very maintainable now. They're in good shape. Anybody's welcome to the public records at the tax assessor's office. If you'll go look at the homes or the lots on both of these lakes over the last 4 to 5 years, they have done nothing but escalated in price and demand. And that's one of the unfortunate deals I think Mr. Glass had talked about earlier. Everybody's wanting a lot, but there's not any prime lots left. So people will go buy something and, you know, they think they can build something and they really can't. It's not a fault on the person buying it or something, but there might have been some misrepresentation somewhere from the real estate or whatever. But again, it's just a high demand, and everybody's wanting on the lakes. They want to be here. Everybody wants the contractors working. We're trying to, we've got a lot of that situated and going the right way. Jeff has done good work in the past. He continues to do work. Derek does excellent work. Derek and us work, I think, amazing on that. It's about 800 feet total, wasn't it, Derek, of a wall. For whatever reason, man had a beautiful rip rock wall that had been there for probably 30 years, but he didn't want rock. He wanted wood. And we knew it was going to be a nightmare, but Derek and us worked through it, and it turned out beautiful. But like I say, I think everybody, even the contractors, are just like any store you go into now. It's hard to find labor. You can't find workers. And like I say, I know these guys, I don't think I've ever seen it to where people are screaming to have projects done. But unfortunately, they probably only have one crew. They don't have the manpower or supervision to have 3 or 4 crews go through. Like they could, have the process to do, but they don't have the work power to do it. But like I say, I think the process that the board is looking at and trying to go to is working. I will touch on one thing, and I hope I'm not out of place on this. We had looked before of trying to engage another engineering firm to help on some of this process, but we met and tried to work it out, 3 or 4 times, Alex, and it just never came together. So I think, again, that fell back on him not having the manpower. But like I say, I think this is going to be a good deal here, and like I say, I will work with them. I'm still going to answer my phone if Derek calls me or Jeff calls me, has a question, or they can't get a hold of somebody, and hey, Robert, I know you might know about this, what I need to do, I'm going to do it. Same thing with Mr. Rogers. He has a question or something, I'm going to try to do the best I can to help him out. So, y'all have any questions for Roger? Like I told you yesterday, Rodney, this is going to be a big learning process. There's a lot of information. You've got probably it's already been, I think we got the letter a month or so ago, but the spillway inspections and levee inspections are coming up. Ben, I've already given, I think, the information to him, so he'll have to be involved in that and walk in the levees and spillways with them. So, there is a lot of work, as Ms. Hall stated earlier, and she is correct, and yes, there is an O&M account, and there is money in it. Is it enough money? No, it's not enough money, but who knows what it would cost if something happened to one of the levees or spillways. But what I stress to everybody is try to work together. You have 2 amazing Great Lakes here. There's 11 lakes within the Minden District's office. These 2 lakes, they don't even really concern or worry about those because the way Salvini has been maintained, they're in good shape. The fish counts are good. The only thing I will say, I've heard some negative stuff out there about the fishing. Live scopes are killing the lakes. It's not just this lake, it's all the lakes. So that issue is not ours. That will have to be dealt with wildlife and fisheries. But like I say, only thing I can stress to everybody, because I had property and have property again on one of the lakes, try and do as best as you can to be positive and keep the value of your home. The way I look at these homes, they're nothing but an investment for y'all. There's some people in here that I know have bought these homes. They could double or triple their money on them right now from what they paid for them. So to me, there's no bank, there's no savings or anything else you could have invested in that will bring the money return that these lakes are right now. But if we go backwards and we go to something like Wallace Lake or Vistano, you'll be begging somebody to take it off your hand. Rodney, I know y'all been up here, your family's been up here a long time, y'all are the same way. You've seen the bad up here, and you've seen the good. So, like I say,
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Did you say, you told me earlier that there was a couple of squirts going on at one of the
yes,
the walls?
they're coming out of the caulk joints.
Leaks is it in the dam itself or is it in the retaining wall?
No, so you got what you have on the spillway, and me and Bruce have looked at those prints. He had a gentleman that used to work with him, Don Maddox, he was one of the ones involved in when the structures were built. That is one amazing thing, we still have Bruce Easterly around. Bruce was the engineer on hand that when the Department of Public Works back then, it's now DOTD, built both of these lights. He was here, he was on site. So we went and we got all those prints from DOTD about 5 years ago. They were fixing to destroy them. We got them, we have them in our possession now. But there's panels. Those panels were poured, you have the rebar, and they were poured because they have caulk joints in between them. And that's one of the things Don was trying to find a company that would come in and do sonograms of those joints to see what the steel structure was like in there. If any of y'all have lived on the lakes, you know there's electrolysis in the lake. It's no different from the cables we have with the buoys. Within 6 months, you take a half-inch cable, it's almost eaten in two. So, that is a concern that needs to be addressed. I've spoken to Ben about that. Something that his company or Bruce will have to work with him on that to start looking at. It might require some, and I hate to say this word because people get upset, but it might require some type of a drawdown to get it to where they can look at that and possibly go in there and do maybe a repair on those two areas to keep it from going through and the water eating on the existing rebar in there.
The life of a dam is about 40 years.
The life expectancy on the spillway is anywhere from 45 to 50 years. These are fixing to get 48 years old. So, they do have to have work at some point in time. Like I said, we've done an excellent job of trying to maintain them, working the gate structures and all that on it, but like I say, again, that's a problem we had when we weren't here. They had some inexperienced people up here that tried to open the interconnect. They thought it was a way to draw water down. That's not the way you draw it down. They locked that open, and that's why you had on Black Bayou, I think there's a couple of people in here that live on Black Bayou. For about 4 or 5 years, Black Bayou, in May and June, it was always 4 or 5 feet down. People thought they were drawing water off of it, they weren't. The interconnect was taken because Black Bayou sits 5 feet in elevation higher than the big lake. The water from it was going into the big lake during the summertime. And we went in 2014, we repaired that. We had a company came out of Alabama and did that, so that's been fixed. Again, I will offer my service at no charge. When or if y'all need to lower the gates or open any of the gates, because there is a process. You just don't go start opening them up. That's where you get in trouble. So that's all I got.
That's all you've done.
Like I say, I appreciate being here. If anybody has any questions or landowners have any questions, I've had a bunch of them call me that's got projects they're wanting to start. I told them I would get them in the right place and try to help or try to, bring Ben out and anything we need to do. But again, Mr. Lott's deal is open and close. That's an easy case to do. Mr. Clausen's, sir.
What about the rules?
Jimmy's, we have been out there several times. Me and Ben were the last ones. Jimmy's hot on it 1 minute. I'm not talking bad at all about Jimmy. I just know how he is. 1 minute he's hot, the next minute he cools down a little bit. What Jimmy has to do, and Ben will verify this, he has to set the 179.6 across his lot, which we tagged it in a couple areas for him. But he needed to get some of that high grass cut down so Ben and them could go back. He's going to establish the 179.6. That's where the wall is going to go. If I'm not mistaken, Philip can correct me on this. He had talked to Philip about bringing a long stick in, doing excavating. What we recommended was from where the 179.6, where the wall has to be set, we wanted him to step out about 6 feet and bring that excavation and come back and start barely sloping it back so you don't have, 4 or 5 feet of water underneath that big wall when you build it, because it's just going to wash out.
So he's not close. As far as permitting, he's not really that close.
We're just waiting for him to get back with
I haven't got an application from him.
Yeah.
I've sent him information, but I don't have an application.
So Ben will, once, he needs to get with him, and then he will, be ready to go on that. So, he'll just get his stuff to Ben and get that. And say as far
I
as.
have just one quick question.
Yes.
So the contractors up here, do we have any, what am I trying to say? In the application process, is it just landowner hand me an application or meet me up at the office whenever you're ready for an application, or you say you're ready? I mean, do we have no part of this?
What I would recommend, Derek, is let's just say, let's take John here, for instance. John's getting ready to build a boathouse. He calls you or Jeff, okay? What y'all need to do is y'all need to go meet with him. Y'all by now should know, the process or be able to get on the website. Y'all possibly go ahead and download that when y'all go talk to them and say, look, this is what you're going to have to get together. I will help you get that together because y'all should know by now what needs to happen. Y'all get that together. Once you have it together, you send it to Ben, get it to Ben, and then from there, Ben can get back with, with both of y'all if needed. I would advise Howard that both of you put a contact number on there, the homeowner and the builder, as far as the building. Like I said, once that's done, then, and he gives the approval of it, from my understanding, once he gives approval, that approval will come to the administration website, which will be Ms. Free. Once Ms. Free has that, she will pick up the phone, she will verify with them that it is ready to go. You, the contractor, and Mr. Homeowner will come up here, or Ms. Homeowner will come up here, y'all sign that, and you have the permit, and then Ben's company will schedule some, inspections with y'all. I think the biggest thing that, needs to take place is once you get it staked and you're ready to drive your first pilings, they'll be there to drive that and verify. But here again, the engineering that is doing the drawings should help y'all already have some of that staked out before Ben gets involved. But that's going to speak.
The drawings are on us, is what I'm saying.
Well, they're on the homeowner or the contractor, but you're going to have to put that price of it into your building of the boathouse. I mean, the plans are very minimal compared to what these materials and stuff are costing to build boathouses. And I want to touch on Mr. Hall's matter, Mr. President, and then I'm finished. Mr. Hall, he has had quite a bit of erosion stuff over there. I know he's got one area that he loves to keep kind of like a beach area, but the other area where he continues to have erosion, that might be something that he tries to get a hold of somebody and tries to go in there and put some type of seawall up in that area to keep that erosion from happening in the future. So, but like I say, I don't have any control over the wakeboard boats. Like I say, for five or 6 years, they've been causing havoc, but, it's just something you have to deal with.
Second.
Yes, sir.
Arlen Daly.
First of all, my name's Erwin Dilly. I live on 1939 Woodlake Drive. I've been here about 13 years, and I appreciate the board listening to my comments. And Mr. Madden, I also appreciate you. I also understand that you're new to this process, and good luck. So
This is his first meeting.
I know that's the first one, and it's gone way too long. So I'm going to make it short and sweet. So my question to the board, or even to the engineer here, I just want to know, as far as the cost, will that go to the actual landowners, or is that going to cost you guys extra money? Because I just heard the auditor come out and say, hey, listen, this is what we've got, and we don't have a whole lot. So I just understand that there's going to be money involved in this somewhere, and who is it going to come from? Is it going to come from the landowners, or is it going to come from the board? And then with the millage and everything else coming up, and the possibility of, with the offsetting the cost, it's going to go to somebody. And usually it's going to follow from the landowners because they're going to pay additional fee, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just trying to prevent that. I'm not a professional by no means, but I worked for the Corps of Engineers for several years. I've done construction in Europe, I've done construction here, I've done in Africa. I've been all over the place. I know a little bit about construction. I understand offsets, I understand easements, I understand everything. But the process when I moved here 13 years ago, I came from Monroe. I lived on Bayou Cedar. And I had a little knowledge as far, sort of boat docks and boat ramps and et cetera. And I was just curious, the process when I came here was very simple. I filled out an application, drew a set of plans on CAD, and presented it to whomever the commissioner was or whatever, and it was a short period of time, and it was approved and said, hey, listen, you're good to go. And so I understand that the process has worked back in the past. Why is it not working now? I mean, I understand that things have changed, and that we have a lot of moving parts, there's more people on the lake, and there's, of course, there's more erosion caused by the lake boats, and et cetera, et cetera. But say, for instance, I was to hire Mr. Ford to build me a boat dock or a boathouse or seawall. And he's a very reputable builder, probably one of the best guys in North Louisiana. Why does he have to, or why do I have to submit the plans to an engineer when he probably knows more about building construction per se than the engineering firm? I'm not to, you know, I just, that's my question, is the why.
I guess in my brief conversation with Kelly, that's something that we're really intensely looking at.
Okay.
And that's what, in her defense, she's already started looking into it. That's one of the things I want to look into.
Exactly.
What is there? Are these legitimate requirements due to what's going on in today's society, what we're up against, or have we went a little too far? I don't know. That's what I want time to review and work through. I know Kelly's already started doing that, and we were talking about it briefly. So a lot of what me and Kelly are trying to do tonight, and I think Gary too, is patch something right now until we can get it investigated and get it going, because there's a lot of changes going on right here. And I understand that. So we have options, and those options are limited in what we can and can't do at this time.
Exactly.
But we're trying to do what we think is best. I'm a landowner. I'm incurring the same fees, the same things that you go through that anybody else is. I mean, I probably, between me and my dad, we've got more lake frontage than anybody in this room, I would almost guess. I mean, so I got a lot of these problems going on that I have to deal with. I guess what we're asking is, we want your input, and we're going to take it to heart.
Okay.
Can you bear with us just a little while and try to make this the best place we can and go through a review process? Because I know it's this. I have another gentleman that's coming within 2 weeks right here. I know who he is, I know who's supposed to be here. I've already had a lot of conversations with him. He wants to get as active and has all these questions that I have. But we have to have time to.
He's asking. And I didn't hear any numbers as far as cost, and that's you know, when usually, you know, an engineer comes to you and presents this case, he's going to have at least an idea of what it's going to cost.
The contract that I was provided by Ben's, it outlines prices per hour, whoever, what it's doing. I mean, it lines it out, because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't on board with this right at first. I'm on board for a third party. And I'll take some of the heat off of Robert and Simone's. Everyone's talking about another engineer who needs to be asked to do this. I had a personal conversation with Bruce Easterly, and I asked Bruce, would he be interested in this? And Bruce is like, I will help you any way I can, whenever you need, but I have no interest. I cannot at this time take that on. So we are looking out there and going through this and feeling it out. And that was my first deal with Bruce, because I know Bruce very well, and I know Bruce has a very good history on this lake, and he cares about this lake. Bruce looks like this is almost his baby, because he built it and did it. And so he's a very good source, as Robert said, for any of our problems, and he's willing to help us. But Bruce is not willing, he doesn't have the time or the resources to take on what we feel like we're going to need to keep this. And I look at this as a process of, you have a large investment in this property up here in your house and everything, like we all do. I do too. The last thing I want to see is this lake go down and our property values go down. Okay? So there has to be some standards, and they have to be held to maintain that level. We need to figure out what those are and how can we get there the quickest and easiest and make the process as simple as possible, but still maintain those standards and checks and balances. Because I want that equality across the line. I mean, I want it. I wish everything you come up here, you say, this is what I want to do. Like, you're going to go and stuff. But there's too many variations, as you know, they're going to change. It's just like Mr. Clausen's is different than someone else's. You know, so we've got to work through that. Do I think there needs to be some changes in the permitting process? I do. And that's what we're going to address. Now, I will tell you this, and you might not like me for this, but like you said, we don't have a lot of money for what I'm looking at. So we either have to streamline it, or yes, the permits are going to cost a little bit more, or they're going to cost X amount because we can't afford to pay those. But that's what you would be paying, I would pay as a landlord to ensure the level that we need to maintain this lake and the quality, to get quality builders on this lake that we need. We want to maintain it. We don't want someone building something that falls down in 2 or 3 years, and now I've got to go in there and I've got debris floating out of the lake. My child's out there riding, he hits a 2x4, he hits a 6x6 or something out there. To me, that's what the permitting process and the inspection process is we have to have checks and balances.
I understand that. I understand what you're saying, but most of the people that own property on this lake is not going to have some guy with a pickup truck, a skill saw show up and build something. I mean, they're not worried. I mean, most of them are not worried about saving that kind of money. I mean, most people, if you're going to build something, you need to build it right, correct? Most people on this lake do that because most people that live on this lake, they're not doing construction, contractors. And is it the contractor's fault, or is it, you know?
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
I'm just saying, I just don't want to see any additional costs go over to the landowners because we had to hire our engineering firm to tell Mr. Ford how to build a boathouse.
It's not my ability. We are not issuing building permits.
Okay.
We do not issue a building permit. We don't understand. But I guess I look at it this way. It's the same as if you lived in a subdivision that had an HOA. Okay? There's HOA, all they're going to do is they're trying to maintain the standards of that subdivision and what's going on. So you have to have some of those standards. And Jeff will tell you, I think there's 14. I'll promise you, people try to get them to cut, hey, how can you save me money? What can I do less here? Can we do this a different way? Now, they're like they won't cut corners because of their ethics and their standards that they build. But, and especially as time gets tighter and money gets tighter, people are looking to cut corners. We'll just have to agree to this. Sir?
Who's going to inspect it and insure that?
Oh, that's your job. I mean, it's for insurance. Just what
No, who is going to inspect what I go build and ensure that that boathouse isn't going to float up in 2 years? How does he know that?
He's not doing that. That's a question that we're talking about.
Why would they answer inspections?
To make, in the past, there has been stuff constructed on this lake that had problems that was said not to be constructed in the proper manner or as per the permit. To me, that's what I'm inspecting. I'm not inspecting the quality of your work because I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure that. I don't know if Ben necessarily knows how to do that. What we're inspecting in our permit, the way I do this, and if I'm wrong, you'll tell me, is that we're just making sure what I permitted you to build is being built according to that. It's this big, it goes this far, it does this. That's all I'm doing. I think you're going to end up seeing in the future, there's questions within the parish, there's questions within the city about permitting. Permitting is an ongoing problem throughout our whole parish right now. And it's being addressed and it's being worked on. How fast is it going to be sorted out? I don't know. I can't tell you that. But I'm not doing a building inspection. We're doing a permit inspection so that you're doing what you were permitted to do. Did you go out 100 feet? Did you go out 120 feet? Did you have a 30-foot square boathouse? Or did you build it to 40? Because like I told Kelly, what I want to do is I want to prevent a problem that occurs early in the process. So we say, hey, whoa, you said you were building 30 here and now you're 40-foot wide. No. It's easier to solve that issue and that problem at the time if we're checking it along the way than waiting to the end and go, you didn't build what you said you were going to build. It's not a building permit. And I don't know better.
Did we have then before this date or today's date, did we have a subject matter expert in-house that would go out and say, he's doing it right or he's doing it wrong, this is what you can do and what you can't do? I mean, was there any checks and balances? Who was doing the inspecting and issuing? I understand issuing permits, that's easy. Okay, you look at a set of blueprints, you dotted all your I's, you crossed your T's, and you went to the Corps of Engineers, you went this, and that, 2 neighbors. I understand that. But who in the I mean, it was getting done back then.
The short answer, I believe, is Robert Berry and Bruce Easterly. That's correct.
And Charlotte sometimes too.
Charles Floyd.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's why they had approved.
see, it sounds like we have, it would be cheaper just to have an in-house, a subject matter expert in-house. That's all he did, you know, say, hey, listen, instead of paying an engineer firm a ton of money, but I understand that you have to have an engineering firm for infrastructure. I understand, and you gotta have engineers for the levees, for the, you know, for all the additional things that's in the district. All right, sounds about this, right?
And see, right now, by my understanding, like the other thing, and right now, you don't have that in something. I'm not school kid here, we're trying to Kelly, bless her heart. We're trying to keep the process moving forward with this, and that's why I go back again. This is a temporary,
No issues with any.
you know, and it can be changed at any time. I completely understand. I was just,
that's what
I'm not worried about I'm not really worried about the permit process. I was just more worried about the money. What's going to be all, that's part of the landowners.
Hey, Paul, Fix came here when we keep talking.
But I would like you to.
I couldn't hear either.
And
Quit talking, you can hear.
there are, I'm gonna tell you, there's gonna be things. I completely understand, and that's the only questions I
No, that's
asked.
fine.
Was more from the monetary end.
Yes, and we're gonna work through that.
Okay.
And I'll try to be brief, but as it relates to cost, and certainly one of those options would be to have a subject matter individual employed by the board, but I believe you're going to find that our cost would be much less than having somebody here and paying for benefits and all the other accoutrements that come along with an employee. There is some benefit to having a private individual, you know, as needed to do that. And I understand we've got very reputable and great contractors, and I've been doing this a long time as well. And in general, it's like a pilot, okay? So pilots generally aren't paid to fly the airplane, they're paid to take care of that airplane if something goes wrong. And most of the time, you have very can-do contractors that are out trying to do their very best for their client. But there's always those that aren't that way. And, you know, every day, all day long, I'm over millions of dollars worth of construction, and there is no doubt where something doesn't come up out in the field that maybe you got to move it or change it, or something needs to be modified. And so you're in my philosophical approach to this is 100% aligned. We're not here to provide resident project representation that every nail and every board and every pile that goes in was to perfection. We are ensuring that what the applicant submitted, what was approved, is going in according to that. If the boathouse doesn't move or the wall doesn't change, because I can tell you, you go out there on day one and everything's going the way it's supposed to, and then, you know, when the police is away, you're going to speed. You know, might veer off here that way. So it's just, maybe it's not 3, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 1, but it's just a way to provide a method to close out an application so that the board knows that this was approved, and what was approved got put in per the application, and you close that out. And that's how most permitting agencies work their permits. There's always a closeout procedure. So,
Didn't have motion on the floor?
so anyway, there it is.
Can I call for a question?
Did you fill out a comment card?
No, I didn't. I didn't know I had to.
That's not what call for the question means. It's part of Robert's Rules of Order.
What's the motion on the floor?
But you're correct, sir.
What's your question?
He doesn't have a question. He's calling for the question, which is part of parliamentary procedure.
You got to vote if there's something. Okay.
Yeah, are we done with the comment?
Yeah.
By the way, that's also.
Anyway, okay.
I had a motion, we had a second, we heard public comment, all in favor of the motion.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passed.
Good.
Okay.
Wait,
Oh, we have one more, we're going to take care of
Mr. Clausen.
Right now.
Okay, so I move to amend the agenda to add Brian Clausen's request and application for a seawall to be approved, to be added to the agenda.
I second. Public comment? All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
All right.
Go.
Okay. Subject to the, I move that, subject to receipt of the letter of recommendation from Bruce Easterly, and based on the representations of Robert Berry, that we approve Mr. Clausen's request to build his seawall.
And I have it right here on my phone if you need.
Please email that to me.
I second. Okay, all in favor? Our public comment?
Okay.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? All right. We have a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second. Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank y'all for coming.